This episode is brought to you by Audit Shield, the service that protects CPA firms when the CRA comes calling. Audit Shield ensures every hour you spend responding to audits or reviews is fully covered.
Welcome to our AJAG PD Pod, the place for discussion, debate, and learning about all things accounting. Our hosts, Ivan Tabak, Jonathan Tucker, are CPAs that have been in practice for more than 3 decades. Together, they bring varying experience and viewpoints to the table, not to mention a little humor, too. Join us as we talk through current issues and hot topics, tap into expert guest insights, and enjoy the odd walk down AJAG memory lane. Before we begin today's podcast, please note, although the educational material within the podcast has been carefully prepared, none of the persons involved in the preparation of the material accepts any legal responsibility for its contents or for any consequences arising from its use. As well, the podcast material and the references contained therein may reflect laws and practices that are subject to change. Advice regarding a particular fact or situation should always be reviewed by a qualified professional. This podcast is produced and distributed by AJAG Professional Development. For more information about AJAG or any of its offerings, please visit ajag.ca.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of the AJAG PD Pod. I'm Ivan Tabak.
And I'm Jonathan Tucker.
And today we're pleased to be joined by Naomi Wilkins, a bookkeeping and business foundations educator. Welcome, Naomi.
Thank you so much, Ivan and Jonathan, for having me today. I'm really excited to be here.
Very good.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And bookkeeping, to a lot of people, sounds like it's not a topic they want to hear about. It's not technical enough. It's not high-end enough. But I think it's obviously the foundation of everything we do. And I don't know about you, but finding a good bookkeeper
100%.
is been one of the hardest things I've had to deal with in my practice over the years.
I just dread when clients say, you know what, I'll do my best and give you the books. And it's like, all right, forget that. We're going to have to just start over.
Or they're going, I went out and hired a bookkeeper. Yeah. I found somebody to do it.
So, you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
It's unregulated. You never know what you're going to get.
And that's what you do, right? You try and teach them what to give us.
Yeah, no.
So tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, what your business is.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So for me, as a saying is, I remember using ACPAC, right, back in the 90s when I worked at in an accounting office at a metal stampings company. And I've sort of been in the accounting world. That was just part-time in high school, but I've sort of been in that accounting world with small and medium businesses ever since. So I've been the office manager, that accidental bookkeeper. But from there, I felt confident and I went out and I was a bookkeeping solopreneur doing the bookkeeping for individual businesses. So I took that arc that way. I actually went to school for computer science, not for accounting, actually. Okay. But for me, I think the most illuminating part of my career absolutely was about 10 years ago when I worked for a small business tax filing firm. And that was seminal. That was eye-opening for me, hugely valuable, a privilege to work there for sure. And it pushed me forward in wanting to share messages of things I'd seen and heard that made bookkeeping easier, right? So then from there, I moved on to be a bookkeeping coach and consultant for business owners, DIY bookkeepers, and what I would call accidental bookkeepers. So those office managers, those ones you're like, you get some of it, but not all of it, fill in the gaps, bridge that divide.
So what's your work? What does your work look like then? I mean, are you kind of mentoring bookkeepers or?
Well, I really enjoyed that connection, that one-on-oneness, that consultation. Yeah. But I'm also inspired by the businesses that I support. And, as a business-minded person, entrepreneur, how can I scale this? So that's why, and of course, the internet, that's sort of why I've moved on to doing online courses and cohorts. So, for example, right now I'm really excited to start a 5-week cohort going through a bookkeeping simulation next week with a group of individuals where we take actual documents simulating real-life headaches. So starts off super easy, like an on-ramp. But then you start having bounced checks and, payments that match client A instead of client B and getting mismatched and how to deal with that. And sort of real elbows deep learn to do by doing is what I found to be the best way.
So what has your experience been with the students that you're getting? Are they current bookkeepers for the most part that are trying to upgrade their skills, or are they, as you said, accidental bookkeepers who are trying to learn this from scratch? Yeah.
Great question. Like, actually, it's a bit of a mix, sort of everybody, to be honest, because it's I call it who's actually in charge of getting the books done, because that can be different people, right? It can be accidental bookkeepers, it can be office managers, it can be junior bookkeepers, or even senior bookkeepers that are just wanting to learn cloud bookkeeping, which is very different than desktop bookkeeping. And what I've found actually is, yes, bookkeepers, coming in before the bank feed have an advantage, but they're still finding that bank feed confusing as well. And I think like that trajectory of my career has given me a real front row seat to how like the bank feed hasn't just changed how we do bookkeeping, but it's actually changed how people learn bookkeeping, right? And also the quality of the bookkeeping files, speaking to your pain point of like, what type of bookkeeper are we going to get when you just randomly get one? Like what type, where are they at in their journey, right?
Right.
And I feel like the bank feed, like, and its smart categorization is like a real precursor, as I'm saying, to sort of this AI era that we're going to be facing. It's not like AI is new, but we've been dealing with that bank feed, smart categorization, suggested matches, bank feed hallucinations. Like the accounting industry has been dealing with that for over a decade, right? And I think I want to unpack. I think unpacking sort of what that changed in bookkeeping can really help make bookkeeping better now, but also better position us for, how to approach sort of AI tools, not just for bookkeeping, but for anything in the future.
In a way, that smart categorization, it sped up the process of input.
Yes.
But I find in some of the files I get that it makes things worse.
Yes.
Because it makes the bookkeepers lazy, or they can get lazy relying on the categorization and not looking at it. So if you get it records something from Best Buy as computer expense, is it capital or is it or is it computer? Things like that. Or is it a shareholder loan, right? You can't get away from looking at every transaction.
Can't get away from looking at it.
And understanding what it should be and not what the default categorization is. And that, you run into so many issues,
And
often minor issues, but sometimes not just minor issues.
One big one, right?
But you don't get behind the numbers because you're looking at this, what looks like a very neat and tidy report, and that feeds itself into a set of financial statements. I had one recently where we took our work done in QuickBooks, and the client had a shareholder debit of $100,000, and he was adamant that he had not taken the money in. And so all we're working from is a bank statement which has a series of transactions. You don't even know really what's behind those transactions because you just have that statement, and it's captured by a bank feed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we started looking at the transfers that the penny dropped, and it was like, he opened a corporate investment account. We treated those transfers as though it was a shareholder personal, and he had actually mentioned that to us, but hadn't ever given us a statement. But now we just looked at it, took it for granted, and said, okay, well, we better give him a dividend for $100,000, and
Real world
wasn't it all?
facts, right?
Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
No, I say like a big part of the training, I presume, is to get the bookkeepers to actually look at the balances in the accounts and say, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe it reconciles to whatever statement you're working on. Yeah. But do the sub-accounts make sense? You have debits and payables and credits and receivables, and you have a shareholder loan debit. Ask the client, does this make sense to you?
Or what's in that
Insuring assets.
What's in that insurance expense?
Right?
That's a default GL account. Insurance. It's like what? Commercial insurance? Auto insurance? Life insurance?
What is it?
Right? Like we need more information.
So in some sense, though, it's enabled us to get on top of the details that we were just happy to get a general ledger before back in my training. we went from manual to computerized. Now we've got all of these transactions that are instant because of downloads, because of bank feed. We can look at it. Now our job is to drill into it. Do we understand it? Right. And so I think we might have a better product for the client at the end of the day, but it does tend to make you lazy if you don't drill down into it and understand it.
Well, I think I would say it's a difference actually about sort of the frame of mind that you're in. So calling back to that story that you just said about the client with the every time you saw a transaction to X account, your mindset, your mind frame was like, oh, that's shareholder loan, right? And I think that is key into understanding why cloud bookkeeping apps with these smart bank feeds have made bookkeeping so much harder to learn. And this is actually like my soapbox message for people is about how it's like QuickBooks nowadays, like since the bank feed and since cloud bookkeeping, legitimately is harder to learn. It is a steeper learning curve for bookkeepers that came in after me. And the reason for this, once you see it, you can't unsee it, okay? And I think the message itself helps people put themselves in that mindset or that frame of mind that's actually going to help. And this is what gets me excited. Is like, so going back to the beginning, right? Like I talked about how I was an office manager. I saw that check get written, put in the mail. I printed the payment myself, live, real-time bookkeeping, slow, fine. But I saw it actually happen. It's the same even with desktop, with what I call after-the-fact bookkeeping. So not necessarily with an office manager, but with an after-the-fact outsourced bookkeeper. Same thing. With a desktop software, you enter a bill from the bill. You enter the payment, you enter the invoice, you enter the payment, right? You see, and then it goes into the bank with 3 other checks. You see that flow. It's still it's faster than real time, but it's still slower. And you see it, you feel it innately.
It still makes an impression on you because you don't realize you're seeing it at the time, but it's flowing through a system.
You're feeling accrual. You're feeling the accrual innately in your bones, right? Now, that's been going on while the accrual bookkeeping's been going on for those complicated, the payables, the inventory type, bigger businesses. You got the smaller businesses that it's just easy to do. Like we're not talking bank feed yet. We're still on desktop. And now let's think about the bank statement bookkeeping. Accrual bookkeeping, that bank statement came at the very end of the period. Once you had everything in, only then did you go to the bank statement and see what cleared, what didn't, what have I missed. The bank statement was the confirmer. Reconciling is confirming 2 lists. That's what reconciling is, right? At the end, confirming. So now, obviously, that's kind of hard to learn still, especially for businesses that aren't that complicated, behind on their bookkeeping, shoebox of receipts. All right, for certain businesses, even especially ones where cash accounting and accrual accounting are the same, no time delay. So for all of those businesses, cash accounting is pretty appropriate, right? Just give me the bank statement and I'll categorize it. That's sometimes then you can trust that balance sheet. You know the bank's reconciled because you've only been in the bank statement. You haven't muddied it up with accrual. The accountant does the accruals, not the recorder. Right. At the end of it, let's put in those payables to make this accrual for tax at the end, right? But you can trust the bank because it came from the bank, right? So it's a legitimate way of doing bookkeeping. I'm an accrual girl, it's the gold standard, but I'll say that cash has its place. Now, what QuickBooks did, so even before QuickBooks Online and Xero and all those other places, you had other places like Wave. Wave is a software where you just categorize from the bank feed. That's it. So bank feeds start to happen. That smart categorization starts to happen over in the cash world over here. I was like, this is great. Look at her. We're supercharged. They get super excited, right? And you've got QuickBooks Desktop, who's just, and other Intuit, Sage, whatever. They're all really great at doing the desktop accrual. So now we have QuickBooks Online, Xero, other cloud, like supercharged softwares that take that accrual power of software and the bank feed power of software, and they fuse it together and don't tell you that they're doing that. They don't tell you that. They just assume you know. They just assume you know. Oh, well, you can use the bank feed when you want to do the bank cash accounting, and you use the people who are coming in from a mindset of, let's face it, accidental bookkeepers, a lot of them are cash mindset. Like, I didn't make the money till it goes into the bank. Like, we can understand. I don't think that's lazy. I think that's just the mindset they're in. That's the mind frame they're in. And they're put in front of this bank feed at the beginning. We've been giving the bank statement at the end. That's how we really understand what's going on. You're throwing somebody that bank statement at the beginning only works when you're talking cash, doesn't work when you're talking accrual. No wonder everybody's confused.
And the whole idea of a cycle is gone, because our cycle used to be a bank statement, so you had to wait to
Yes.
do the bookkeeping until the bank statement came out. Now you can just go online and say, all right, well, what was the balance as of March 22nd? Right? And so all that. So how do you teach people this? What is your process in terms of helping accidental bookkeepers along the way?
Well, definitely, I think shining a light on the fact that QuickBooks is fusing two methodologies of bookkeeping and asking you to flip back and forth between accrual and cash. And once you see that, and once you understand that, that actually makes it so much easier.
And it's not just QuickBooks it's doing, it's any technology.
It's
Zero.
I say cloud accounting with bank feeds. Because Wave doesn't do it. Wave is like, here's the cash, right? That's, that's a different beast. But I'm talking learning deep accrual accounting. You can't learn deep accrual accounting from the bank feed first. You just can't. And letting people know that bank feed is only for the cash people. We can use it to supercharge once we understand what accrual is. Now, I love the bank feed. I'm a fangirl of bank feeds. Xero, QBO, not just QBO. Because I get to use their power. That goes back to the AI metaphor. It's like once you understand what the tool is doing, then you can use it at full power. And that's why when I teach people how to use QBO, I come from they can go to cash later if they want, but they need to understand what risks they're taking and the shortcuts they're risking. Like you said, not skipping looking at the source documents has its benefits, has its drawbacks, right? You're trusting the vendor to charge you right. And as somebody who's seen a lot of different books, doesn't matter how big the business is, don't trust somebody else's bookkeeping.
It's kind of, I mean, when you think about how our work has changed, where we would get that shoebox full of receipts and you would see the details, it would just be innate. But now all you get is, you don't even get canceled checks anymore. You can't look at anything. You're just getting a document with a bank statement with a series of numbers on it.
Yeah.
I think actually that leads back to your question about how I teach people. It's like you do still get clear checks. You do.
Like, yeah,
the
sometimes they
statement.
give you the copy.
No, with the statement. Still,
But
it's
people aren't
still
writing
there.
checks anymore.
True. So we have to dig. That's another layer to the steepness of learning. At least I had a clear check. But so you asked how I teach people is I start them without the bank feed. So I actually, for my simulations, I create a bank feed using an app. So I have you can use a CSV, but I get all fancy. But I don't give them a bank feed for the first month of Doculus.
What's the simulation? You talked about a simulation, so expand on that.
Well, as I said, you learn to do by doing. And classroom, I call sort of fantasy land, nothing bad happens. Right? And I'm really excited about all of these apps that are out there. So I'm really into Dax, HubDoc, these different capture systems, because I am all about see it to believe it, going back to the source documents. But yeah, I also understand how can we make it quicker? How do we do this intentionally, smartly? Don't over-automate chaos, right? Automate what's helpful. And so I wanted to provide documents that had real writing on it by a real person with real notes from the owner and missing checks and bounced checks. But I start with a really conscientious owner that gets a bit loosey-goosey over time, right? To start, this is what it looks like when it's pretty. This is what it looks like when it's not. And so I created a set of bookkeeping documents. It's a 3-month case study. It doesn't take 3 months to do.
Right.
You can do a month at a time or a week at a time. And
Online?
yeah.
Online.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should talk a little bit about that. My worst call is from a client. I've got one client in mind, and their bookkeeper calls me once a month. I got this transaction, and I don't know how to record it. And it's like, oh, Lord, here we go again. Because, that could go for the morning, right? Well, what do you mean it's a debit? What? Wouldn't it? And it's just I hate somebody like you just to say, hey, can you please talk to this person?
Well, those are the people she's trying to
I know.
produce.
Or that's why I think for accountants having a resource like this in you, Naomi, is a huge advantage, because it's you know what? Here's a number, call this person and get them help them
Get them
become
to train your bookkeeper.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Like, I'm trying to scale what I do because I'm inspired by the other businesses, right? But you're talking about what I'm coming up against right now, like learning the long way. Like, I don't teach how to do stuff. I teach why we do stuff, so that when you come up to the crazy stuff, you know what to do, right? And I worked for a bookkeeping firm. They also do tax as well. But like the idea that you can actually partner with a bookkeeping firm that has bookkeeping first, right? So if you have you could probably as an accountant try and make a connection with a bookkeeping firm to say, hey, do you do bookkeeping coaching for office managers and DIY bookkeepers? Because that is a service that people offer. Like I offered it, right? But an actual bookkeeping firm with trained bookkeepers who are on top of like all of the new trends and like do actual bookkeeping, I have seen them offer that service. So if you have a client who's continually emailing you bookkeeping questions. So I have to admit, I do email accountants when I have accounting questions. Like I'm not a tax professional, right? There was a surround, like something small. There was a surround for $3,000 to a bathtub in a bed and breakfast, right? And it's like, do we capitalize this? It didn't increase the value of the property. It like replaced an existing thing that was broken, but it's over the 500. Is this leasehold improvement? Like, that's a quick one-off. Like, do you want me to capitalize this or not? Yes or no? Like, and not just any accountant. The accountant on the file who has their perception on how they like to do the tax return. Because let's face it, you ask 10 accountants one question, you'll get 10 different answers. All of them kind of right. It's squishy. It's squishy. So I don't know. I think if you have something like that, like, yes, learning, I think that's a symptom of not learning the why. When they're asking those bookkeeping questions of how to post something. They don't know why they're doing it. That gets back to the problem.
Let's go back to the AI issue. So as you were explaining that the bank feed was the origins of AI in bookkeeping, right? That was the first element of automation that's coming. But where do you see AI being able to improve the system and improve the ability of bookkeepers to code transactions and to look at whether things make sense or not? Can it? Do you see that happening? Or can we not get away from having to have a set of eyes on, I won't say every transaction, but at least, the more significant transactions to actually look at, because the coding, as I said in my example before, from if a Best Buy receipt for $1,000, but is it an expense? Maybe it was a repair, maybe it was a purchase. Without actually asking that question, how are you going to know? So how can AI actually help you deal with those type of situations?
Is it possible, or is it not possible?
My gut feel is you can never get away from having eyeballs on those transactions, because every time you look at that same $1,000 transaction from the same vendor, it could be a different answer.
AI, I think, from my perspective, would say there's a transaction here for $1,000. It could be handled this way, this way, this way, this way. So it flags it for you to say, okay, intervention needed, right?
Right.
I think. Would you? Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
Expert.
That's so many thoughts. I'm excited. Yeah. Like two things that come to mind right away. The first one, the third one is I don't know. But what I can say is, first of all, AI can put eyes on the documents. That's the solution to that. There's a lot of great apps out there. Like, I won't list them all. The two that come to mind, the big players, Dext and HubDoc. Like Dext has OCR, that reading capacity.
Optical character recognition. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know what it stood for.
Yeah.
It can actually read handwriting now. Yeah. It sees what the last 4 digits were on the payment card, and like reads how it was paid. Yeah. And allows you to book something either as a payable or as an expense, right? Like it reads it for you, lines it up. You still have to have your second set of eyes on it. And again, it's like smart categorization, but informed. It's like informed smart categorization. So that's, I think, part of it. So because we have that, I can't say that AI is not going to help us. But what I can say is, I think the question, I wouldn't ask, how can AI help us? My question is, we've dealt with the precursor for the last 10 years. What can we learn from that? And what we've learned from that is that even though the tool itself makes professionals and experienced people do quicker, better, more powerful work, like I love that bank feed, man. I can get stuff done way quicker than I ever used to. A bank reconciliation might have taken me an hour before, it takes me 30 seconds now. Like, it's amazing.
And some of the people you're dealing with don't even know the concept of a bank reconciliation, by the way.
That's the key, though. That's the key, is like, we are giving people smart categorization tools without, like, and here's the problem, telling them it will make things easier for them, right? Telling them that you can kind of trust it, but think about it. That's what we say about AI right now. But we're not giving people the tools to how to know that. We're not giving people the tools how to use the smart categorization. And it's less about thinking about like how to use the tools. It's more important to think about how are we going to train the people behind us. We've all had that experience of being in the bookkeeping or accounting elbow deep. Because I think this applies not just to bookkeeping, but to a lot of the professions, including tax accounting, right? And it's just sort of like, we've been in elbow deep. It is so hard for us to remember not knowing something. It is so hard for us to remember not knowing something, right? That feeling of like, why doesn't somebody just know to capitalize that? Well, they're stuck trying to figure out what the owner was sending an e-transfer for to Rob. Like, they've got a million, they're not lazy, they're working their butt off trying to figure out what the heck it even was purchased. And by the time you get to that, do you even remember the training you had 5 years ago in a bookkeeping boot camp? No, repair and maintenance, 10,000 done. It's like, whoa, remember, it's a big number, stop, slow down. But like, I think the key to understanding how to use AI in the future is understanding how to train and give some sort of innate experience to the people coming up behind us. There is actually a really interesting quote. I wrote it down just because it's not my words. It was on LinkedIn. So there's a post on LinkedIn by somebody named Chantal Rissart. It was about an article she shared from the Harvard Business Review on AI. It wasn't about accounting specifically, just professional jobs and AI in general. And she said, one point really struck me. Experienced professionals often get more value from AI than juniors because they know how to question it. Our job as leaders is to design work and learning in ways that actively develop judgment, not quietly replace it. And I think that's the key.
The problem is we don't have enough time to do that. We're so busy ourselves, right? And so to take time to train that bookkeeper to say, all right, or to set up a system where people can learn inherently is so hard to do because we're all busy.
But
That's what she does.
I'm not talking about accountants.
Yeah.
I am and I'm not.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking about how bookkeepers train bookkeepers, how colleges, universities train bookkeepers, how industry leaders bringing in junior bookkeepers train their bookkeepers. And if you're seeing us and how we're struggling, like, you've seen the effects of that not working firsthand. So now also think about how that works in your industry in accounting, right? You've got junior accountants coming up behind you who have answered all of their exam questions with AI. How are you going to train your junior accountants now, giving them hands-on? You see how it's same but different? It's related. It's happened in bookkeeping. How can that inform us moving forward?
Yeah, the training, the teaching that students are getting in school now is atrocious. From what I've seen, I had an example. My son took an accounting course in university, and he was given a set of, facts and had to build a balance sheet, P&L, and a cash flow statement, and he couldn't figure it out. He couldn't get it to balance. So I was helping him, and there were a series of questions had to be answered. What was this number? What was that? And one of the questions was, what is the plug that you need to balance this? And I said, what do you mean plug?
Plug was a four-letter word. You knew what I said, right? You maybe talked about plug.
But that was the
How do you
question.
force it in?
So I helped him with the numbers. We got everything to balance.
Yeah.
I don't see a plug.
Yeah.
Everything you're right. Here's the facts. It has to work,
and
right?
here's the missing information.
It has to work. So I said, right in that box, say, when you do accounting properly, there is no plug.
Yeah.
He failed. He failed the
Unbelievable.
the assignment. He's never asked me another accounting question, but that's how they're teaching them, and it just blew my mind. And that's the basis of
Well, I would love
the
to
training coming out of school, and this is just obviously a simulated thing. What happened? So people who have gone through that training and then step into maybe become an accidental
bookkeeper.
what was your term?
Accidental
bookkeeper, right? This is what they're thinking. It doesn't work. I'm just going to plug it.
But in some sense, Ive, it's not the problem of the schools. It's now technology has thrown all of these tools, and it's like, all right, how do we untangle this and convey what we're trying to do? How do we take the concept of accrual accounting and say, all right, we got to weed through this, and all right, now, okay, you've got all these, but we now have to convert it, and you have to be deliberate and intentional and explain it,
Intentional.
right? So,
Intentional. And understanding what the tool is doing.
yeah.
Understanding what, like that bank feed for people who are in it, it hallucinates just like AA does with confidence and gives you that
Give an
confidence.
example just for people watching. What do you mean? Give an example of a hallucination that you would see.
Yeah. So about 3 different ones that come to mind.
Yeah.
The first one is, so if you write a check on February 2nd and it clears February 17th, that makes sense, right? And so QuickBooks Online or Xero allow for that time difference, but it doesn't differentiate if it's a transfer or deposit, right? So if you've got a transfer of $2,000 on February 2nd and a transfer on February 18th, it'll be like this.
It matches
QuickBooks,
those.
it matches.
Yeah.
This QuickBooks Online, this QuickBooks transaction that you have entered manually matches this bank feed info line, and I want to marry it. And it's like, it's the idea of when you're doing a reconciliation, you check the wrong thing that cleared. That's basically hallucination number 1. So the other thing that happens is if you've manually entered something as paid by, say, the credit card, but then it actually was paid by debit card, right? That bank feed is only looking for transactions that decrease the bank. And so it's looking for something that decreased the bank for $597. And it's like, I can't see anything here. Yes. You can go ahead and enter it because it's not here. Like it gives you,
But it's
in
buried
fact,
somewhere.
well, I mean, that's what reconciliations do. If you just reconciled the bank, you'd miss that. But if you reconciled the credit card, you'd find the double entry. If you know your flow that you're putting in accrual bookkeeping, like I would have entered that. You look up the number, you see you've put, like it's digging, it's going that extra further. It's how to understand what that bank fee is doing. And I remember the third example now. If you've invoiced a client for 2 different clients for $5,000, right? And you enter one client's payment, right? What happens is QuickBooks will see that you've got $5,000 in the bank and offer up 2 different matches, either match to this client or that client, right? But you're not matching to an unpaid bill. You want to match to the invoice, sorry. You want to match to the paid invoice. But QuickBooks wants to help. It's like the 2-year-old in the kitchen. It really wants to help, right? Chaos. And so that hallucination is our human brain. It's just the way our mind, this goes back to that mindset. Our human brain wants to trust it. Oh, that was client A. I'll quote unquote match. Well, what you're doing instead now is you're adding a new transaction, a payment. And you don't even know, it doesn't say add, it says match. You think you're just marrying a bank feed info line. You think you're just marking it as cleared. You're not, you're adding a payment, you're marrying that new payment and marking the payment as cleared. It should say match and add and match. But that's the hallucination, that if we don't have that context to like check the source. So with AI chat, if I think it's truthful, I don't ask for it to check the source. I've been tricked into like trying to solve some Shopify problems and led astray because I didn't think to check the source.
Because you have to know, like you're saying, you've got to know the source and you've got to know the system the person's using.
Yeah.
So, if I say to one of
Context.
my bookkeepers, okay, here's a bank statement and all the deposits going in must be revenue. I mean, that's all they know to think about.
Yeah.
But then you find out that, no, there's a, I'm trying to think of the name of the app now, but there is a Stripe account behind those deposits. And so there's bank charges implicit in there.
Yes, combined.
And they don't even know, or So is there still an accrual to be set up
Yes.
because the deposit on the last day of the year didn't hit the bank until the next day? It's understanding what
Yeah.
tools that clients are working with,
That's so true.
right? To say, okay, well then, if that's the case, where's the Stripe printout? Because we got to go back to that.
source?
What's the source, right? So you have to understand the tools that people are using, and combine that with the concepts of cash accounting or accrual accounting.
Or, right?
Yeah.
And you bring up another really good point about when we learned. Like when we learned, it was like one thing at a time, a check, a deposit, we got this, right? Well, you've got people coming on the scene now that have to not only, like we're asking them to understand the depth of accrual accounting and how to shove it in a cash accounting brain, but we're also asking them to understand how PayPal works, how Stripe works, how Wise works, how Shopify works, how this integrates, and it's all been set up by somebody who's not an accountant.
Yeah.
And Silicon Valley doesn't even, like the Amazon reports that you can get, like Etsy reports, like none of them are congruous. None of them like make sense. There's actually a huge industry out there right now that like works on e-commerce. So I'd suggest looking into those people who are specialized in it. But we're expecting our people to understand how a PayPal account works. Like all of this new technology has to be, and speaking to the time limit that you said, and we've got a time limit. You got to learn the basics, how to squish it in, and also pay all of this new technology that we didn't have. We learned in layers.
Now we get.
That's why that time shift and combine, I call it combined deposit when it's income with bank charges. It's a combination. That makes sense. And we can talk about that in the same language with each other because we've been in it for so long.
The 14-column spreadsheets, and
Yes.
manual
One right
columns.
systems. You remember one right
one
system?
right system.
We were geeking out before over the paper general ledger. Yeah, what we both
I used to do the bookkeeping for my father's firm when I was 13, 14, and I used to get, a stack of checks and the 14-column, the big black and with the red binding ledger. And, and I used to do all that.
We would have
that's how
competitions
how I would.
in the bullpen about who could add most accurately using an adding machine the fastest, right? There's a column. Okay, go at it, right? And that was just and that wasn't that long ago. When you think about it.
But it you understood. When you got through with all that nonsense, you understood how, at least at that level, the cash accounting
because you
side
had seen it
worked.
step by step.
Because you had seen the physical documents.
I have another question, actually. Something that you'd mentioned before about your son in university learning the plug and about debits and credits. And honestly, I love the beauty of the accounting equation. I love it how it all clicks together. It gives me dopamine. But it's lovely. But here's the thing, right? It's like I didn't know that when I started, but I still could do office management, right? How much do we have to know? Like, so the example that I have here, whether we're doing a desktop software or whether we're doing an online bookkeeping software, but bookkeeping software in general is better than Excel, better than paper.
Right.
We've seen it from all the way from the beginning, right? Why is it better? Because it is putting in each and every journal entry for us.
Yeah.
If you, like, one of my favorite things to do is to show the transaction journal behind the screen. Right? So when we're using the subledger screen, so I call this a subledger when you've got your payables, receivables. I open it up and we're entering an invoice, we hit save, and I say, now go to the transaction journal. And it shows you the T-chart. It shows you the revenue. And I don't use the term debit and credit because
It gets in the way.
Well, it means one thing in one perspective, but come back to perspective, another thing in another. I use up and down, right? So you can see your bank has decreased and your expenses increased, but look, your GST payable has decreased in this column. But how much of that do we actually need to know? How much of the ones and zeros do we need to know in order to code with Python? We don't need to know machine language. We need to, I think, figure out what that sweet spot is. Like, we don't necessarily need to know T-charts to understand, to your point before, looking at the balance sheet at the end of the cycle and seeing, does this make sense logically?
But when you get into it, so here's the ultimate in contradictions. I'm reading a lawyer's memo. It's a long memo on a REO, and I've got my T accounts. I'm going, all right, here, right? And I thought, well, I haven't used T accounts for like years. And then I thought, why don't I put this memo into AI? So I put it into AI, redacted everything, put it into AI, give me the journal entries. What's it do? Gives me the journal entries. Not only that, it gave me the balance sheet because it was a holding company. There was no bank account. It said, all right, by the time you go through all of this, this is it. What contradiction? T account to AI.
Right. What, like just polars.
Crazy.
Polars.
Yeah. But at the
So
end
it's
of the
a very
day,
good question. Like, how much do we need to? Sorry, go ahead.
well, that's it. Like, how much do you need to know?
Yeah.
Probably less than you used to. But if you don't know it,
You won't
Then-
know you don't know it.
Yes.
exactly, you won't
The
question
knowledge
anything.
illusion. The
You
knowledge
won't question anything. And when you hit an oddball transaction,
Yeah.
or even a transaction that doesn't look like it's an oddball transaction, but it
Yes.
might be,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You will not understand it. And that's where the importance of having that foundation comes in. And that is something that I've almost never, ever see from bookkeepers that I've used,
Yeah.
right? They can balance this, balance the bank and reconcile the credit cards,
Yeah.
but they don't look at the
big
end
picture.
product.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, okay, this balance looks a little wonky, it doesn't really make sense. And then go back but without the understanding
Yes.
of right at the base level, they may never figure out why it doesn't make sense. So they just, you just get it sent to you and you have to spend the time.
And maybe that's always going to be the case. I mean, in some sense, like we were talking about insurance expense earlier, just as an example, because
Yeah.
it could be a million things. It might be life insurance, and the policy is owned by the shareholder, and
Right.
it's being
Even
charged.
life insurance itself has
understood.
its own.
And nobody will know to question that unless you've had the training
Yes.
yourself to say, wait, hold on a second, who owns that policy?
Exactly. But that I say should be, and whose responsibility is it to make sure? Because now you're beyond base level bookkeeping. Now you're getting into something a little higher
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
but it's not an uncommon
Yeah.
transaction.
Yes.
So seeing insurance expense or life insurance expense, it should just be an automatic question. Let me see the policy or statement.
But Ivan, if you've only learned from a bank statement that just gives you a bunch of transactions, you don't know to think. Wait,
That's what I get it. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
the training, the type of training that you're providing, I don't know if you get into that type of level, but maybe it's something you could, right? Go learn the
I
basics.
talk about life insurance.
Yeah, so learn the basics, number one. Now, here's 10 accounts in that your common GL accounts you're going to see. And here are the questions you should be asking.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether the number looks like it makes sense or regardless of whether everything else balances, question this, question this, question this. That would get the product that comes to us so much better and save us time and save the clients.
Another example would be I see car lease all the way through in the auto expense.
Squishy.
Where's the lease agreement? In
Yeah.
whose name is the lease? Is it the individual or is it the company? Because if it's the individual, it's not an expense of the corporation. It's a shareholder, right?
I get that all the time. They're putting the charges through, so it's got to be a company car.
That
Even if they know that the agreement is in the individual's name, the company's paying for it, therefore it has to be booked in the company.
Yeah.
Well, you've just brought up what I've noticed and termed the double trust paradox. So what the double trust paradox is, right? First of all, let's start off with the fact that business owners assume that accountants and bookkeepers are the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what they start, right? Accounting is all the same thing. It is not, as we've clearly discussed. But so business owners just throw everything at the bookkeeper, assuming this is double trust, trusting that the bookkeeper knows what can and can't be claimed from tax perspective.
Yeah.
Now, bookkeeper's job is to, our job is to represent what happened in reality. That's our job, as close as possible. That's the goal of bookkeeping. Represent what happened in reality as close as possible. And if you're telling me that that's business related, I will book it as business expense because I
you're doing it.
trust.
Yeah.
Because I trust you,
Yeah.
right? I don't realize, or the bookkeeper doesn't realize, I've seen, that the business owner is trusting them to know That's the paradox. I'm going to throw everything at you, and if I can't claim it, you'll let me know. And I'm like, everything you give me is business. Hey, accountants, here's the bookkeeping. So you're getting the repercussions of that double trust paradox, right? Is that, well, somebody's taken accountability for booking these transactions as business, but now it's up to me to try and figure. And yes, if somebody had just asked you, hey, there's a lease, I haven't come across this before, what should I do? You can help them out, right? But like, they're not knowing what to ask. They don't know what to ask because there's this confidence illusion. The same thing that we have with AI, that confidence illusion. The same thing you were talking about when people have cleared the bank feed. They feel like the bank feed has told them the right thing, and look, it's all clear, Ivan, here you go. And you're like, it's not reconciled. No, but the bank feed is clear. It's that confidence illusion and not knowing what to ask. And now accountants are tasked with having to almost mine the data for the bombs, right? And yeah, I think just talking about that double trust paradox, like just shining light on it is important. And also understanding the confidence illusion. And like how you said, when you plugged that question into AI, it's because you're a senior that you know, like a senior professional, not a
I
senior.
prefer he didn't call me
That's not what I meant. I stopped because it's like I talk about junior bookkeepers and senior bookkeepers. I'm like, wait, do accountants do junior accountants and senior accountants? And then I stopped.
Thursdays at Shoppers is here, this there.
No, that was an unfortunate. I was stopped because of
The worst part is when the person says, "This guy." It's like, no.
I meant senior accountant. That professional has been doing it. You have that confidence, that judgment to say, hold on, AI, don't book that to that. Like you were like, oh yes, that makes sense. I understand because of the mindset and the frame of mind that I have. So all of
Part of that goes back to training, and that's part of the conundrum right now that we have as professionals, bookkeepers and accountants, the educational system has, which is how do we untangle this so that we can convey the concepts that we all learned at one time that kind of moor us so that when we run into transactions, we know what to do with them. But how do I train a bookkeeper? I don't know how I would do that nowadays with all of these extra tools, which are in many respects an impediment, not a tool.
That's amen. They make learning bookkeeping harder.
Yeah.
Much harder than it used to be. That's, I think, what we're dealing with.
So I feel like I want to go back and say, so tell us about what you do now and how you can help people that are watching this today. So,
And knowing that people who are watching, hopefully, are professionals with staff and with bookkeepers, or hopefully we've got bookkeepers themselves, the independent bookkeepers who are watching and looking for ways to maybe improve their skills or have other resources. So we've got both.
And what other resources are there in your world? What associations do you belong to and things like that you can help people both in all areas? So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, I'm part of CPB. When somebody's CPP certified as a bookkeeper, you like they've been not necessarily trained by the bank feed, shall we say? Like they're talking about accrual bookkeeping. So I feel like that is part of the approach sort of that the bookkeeping world, especially in Canada at least, is trying to take, right? Is how can we help? How can we support each other in this?
So a good program for people going through that?
Absolutely. And I think you can, like for bookkeepers who are wanting to learn like through college, like that's a certification you can take as well. So like it ties it together.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's there. What I've found personally though, definitely it's important to understand the basics. That's what we've talked about.
Yeah.
But for me, what I found is it really hooks. It hooks when you do it. And also I found that a lot of college teachings like doesn't necessarily teach you the real world stuff. So you've got junior bookkeepers coming up and they're just sort of like, okay, I get it. Debits, credits, balance. I get it. What do I, bounce check? Yeah. But wait, can we claim this meal? Like all of these things, right? And so what I have, that's what I created that bookkeeping simulation for.
I see.
I have to update it every year. Yeah. And so that takes a
So you teach, do you just teach online? Do you teach at colleges or tell us about what you do?
Well, right now I'm online only for sure. I do have, like I said, I've got courses on my website. And I also have that bookkeeping simulation and I'm running cohorts.
Okay.
And I'm planning to do also a cohort actually for business owners, sort of launch and thriving, sort of understanding those basics, right? Like shining a light on that double trust paradox, what can and can't be claimed, how you're taxed, how the shareholder loan works, all that sort of thing. So those are my two prongs. Is definitely right now cohorts and online courses, and I'm really kind of excited about things that I shouldn't be. Like I just want to like experiment with all of the different apps that are out there, like QBO, Xero, Zoho Books, Sage 50, all of these different cloud apps, DAX, TubDoc, and just sort of see, and then like, how does AI do it? So I have all these like side research projects that I probably shouldn't be focusing on, but I just find it so interesting.
I'm just thinking in terms of how do people, like if I've got a new bookkeeper coming in, you know, do I send them to you and say, here, train them? I don't have the time to do that. Or that really this is just a new resource because right now we're every accounting firm's busy, but we're bringing people in sometimes that have no training, and so where to send them. So is that the type of person that you're looking for?
Yeah.
That's
100% for that bookkeeping simulation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's
how
like
long
the
is it?
real world.
Talk about the simulation program.
I'd say 3.5 months of documents.
Okay.
So half a month of March to sort of on ramp, you know, just meet people where they're at. And then the last bit of July, and it has a nice quarter in the middle there, so we can talk about HST. Part of that also includes what you were talking about before is like, look at the balance sheet, right? It's like, it's a way of saying, now that you've put the transactions in, now what? Like, yes, I've reconciled the bank. Yeah, but now what? Like, review the unpaids. Talk to the business owner. Show them what you didn't claim and why. Tell them what you need receipts for, what you've guessed at, right? Like, yes, I'm okay with making assumptions based on context, but the bigger the amount, the more support you need, right? Let the business owner know the risk. So it's all of those things as well. That's more conceptually, but I think it's interesting, you're talking from the perspective of accounting firms that have bookkeepers that you kind of hope come in knowing stuff and just can impart some of the tax part to them. But I feel like for firms that are bookkeeping firms first, they already have a system within them, generally, where a junior bookkeeper comes under a senior bookkeeper. So I think for me, it would be like I have a system to help those junior bookkeepers practice on something that is less risky. It's not a real client file. Right. And it kind of shows different aspects. So I talk about, so the example is it's a garden center with a retail store. This allows me to talk about deposits on landscaping jobs, right? So that timing. It also allows me to talk about Square, Moneris, debit and credit payments, and how that looks in the bookkeeping. So two different ways of looking at in one simulation, which I really like. So
I'm just thinking of clients that come and say, I just hired a bookkeeper. Right? And it's like, oh, Lord, okay, what do we got? And it would be so good beforehand if the person said, I need a bookkeeper, like, how do I go about hiring a bookkeeper? All right, well, take them in, and here's Naomi over here who can kind of give an interview just to figure out, do these people know what they're doing or not? If they don't have a professional bookkeeping credential, then how do we assess?
Well, there's a whole other site.
Yeah.
well, I mean, there is
Business for you.
there is an actual credential of the CPB, right?
Yeah.
So that, like I was saying before, is the one thing.
Yeah.
But for those people who are who just want more, if
But
you
for
want
the business owner, Naomi, they may not even know about that
so
designation.
you're talking about like business owners who are bringing in like an individual bookkeeper, solopreneur, like I once was, and to sort of understand. Well, CPB does have like a quiz that they can take in an assessment. So that is already there. It's already there. Yeah, look into CPB. You can give a bookkeeper an assessment test, and
Wow, that's a great tool.
Yeah.
yeah,
I did
it's,
not know that.
and so that's there. But I feel like my simulation really, I think, the simulation specifically serves best junior bookkeepers who want to have real world experience. And if there's a bookkeeping firm that doesn't already have that on-ramp in place, then they can, then that would be a great resource to sort of, when you do this, I don't like show you how to do stuff. I give you the paperwork, enter it in, and then let's look at it together after. Because
Just like we learned.
you're gonna ask. First of all, you're gonna ask about things that stump you. I don't want to waste time showing you where to put the date. For goodness sakes, we know where to put the date. Don't click here. That's easy. You'll figure that out.
Right.
You're not stupid, right?
Well, hopefully.
Mindsets, right? That's it. I set them up with the right mindset first. Talk about accrual and cash first. Once they get that mindset, then they're empowered. Then they put in, and there's two sets of questions. First of all, we go over the questions that they have, what they know they don't know. But then I've put little landmines in. That 10,000 improvement to the greenhouse. Oh, that's in there, right? Chiropractor receipt from the business owner because of their back hurting. They don't have a health plan. That's in there. All of these talking points to address the things that they don't know they don't know. And so I do put both in to sort of address, instead of like teaching them what they already know, they can just ask me when they get stuck, and I got the checks.
You talked about the simulation. What else? What else do you do?
Online courses, simulation.
What are
and
some of the
cohorts.
online courses? Are there different ones? Tell us about it for those that don't know. So.
I do have that launching a business in Canada. It's 21 lessons, 21 and 21. And I just really sort of go through, okay, you want to start a business. Here's the top hitters that will save you time and money and headaches, right? And you guys probably already know the sort of things that I want to tell them, right? Because business owners coming in, mush together, just how we were mushing together cash and accounting, they mush together corporate and sole prop. You got sole proprietors wanting to pay themselves a salary, corporate shareholders thinking they can take the money out willy-nilly. They're both right in the wrong side, right? Like,
They got a little bit of knowledge.
Right. So just clearing that up, how GST works, how to what bookkeeping is, all that sort of thing. So different courses like that.
So this has been amazing. I have never met anybody as enthusiastic about bookkeeping as you are. So
I was
it's
going
nice
to say
to know
the
that.
opposite, myself. I wish you would throw a little bit of passion into the presentation, please, Naomi.
Yeah. So tell us how people can get a hold of you and maybe make use of your courses.
Oh, thank you so much. Like, I've just had an absolute blast for sure. And everything's just at my website, naomiwilkins.ca. And I also have a YouTube channel, Naomi Wilkins, but it's Be That Business. So be that business that thrives.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for joining us for our third episode of the year. And we hope you enjoyed the discussion and took away some insights you can apply in supporting your clients. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube or follow the podcast wherever you listen so you don't miss what's coming next. And for expert-led PD courses, additional resources, and AJAG updates, head over to ajag.ca and join our email list. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Jason, welcome back. Good to see you. How you been?
Excellent. Great to be here again, Jonathan.
Good. Today we've been talking about bookkeeping. And so just for those watching today, I'm wondering how bookkeeping and the shifts that we've seen, and what I mean by that is just the automation, the automatic categorization of transactions now where a lot of the thinking has taken out of that. How's that affecting Audit Shield and those types of issues?
Well, what stands out to us at Audit Shield is the shift in pattern. So granted, many cases today, the first CRA interaction is system generated, as we all know.
Yeah.
But it's triggered by risk screening with auditor involvement generally coming if further review is required. So what we're seeing different, particularly over the last few months, is that firms are now seeing more CRA interactions that are increasingly triggered by data analytics and automation tools rather than that individual auditor selection. So when you think about bookkeeping, as it becomes more automated, there's going to be that file variability that will most likely increase.
Yeah.
So the CRA systems are designed to flag that variance.
Yeah.
right? So instead of the occasional event-driven audits that we're accustomed to in the past, it's that we're seeing more steady profile-based reviews.
And I'm just thinking in my own practice about how with the automation, because there's, everybody's under pressure to get things done quickly. And with automation, if we classify something wrong once, it's going to continue. And you might find that you're actually triggering something with CRA because nobody is thinking about whether that account was classified or that transaction was classified in the right account.
100%.
So, yeah.
If
And
you
so
fall outside the
we might actually be contributing to it unwittingly, right? So what are some of the trends that Audit Shield is seeing in terms of audits? Any new trends emerging?
Well, I'd say that the interaction with the CRA is certainly a lot more frequent. And when I say frequent, and we're talking also simultaneous files that are open at the same time, and the number of interactions therein. So this isn't theoretical. It's practical based on the Audit Shield claims activity that we see across the country. A few years ago was, as we say, more traditional audits that were situation specific. You had your large one-time capital gains, aggressive expense claims, sudden revenue swings year over year. Now what we're seeing is that the majority of submissions are smaller in profile-based review. So where the return doesn't align with the statistical profile of that type of business, it's a good chance that you're going to be selected.
Are volumes up?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, when I take a look at the last 60 days, we're seeing a 20% overall increase.
Wow.
But it's not where they're as I say, event-based or particularly difficult to respond to. It's just, it's like, I hate to say, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's this time, 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and it all adds up.
And you were talking about interactions where we're actually interacting with somebody on the other end with CRA, but I'm thinking too about the number of assessment notices that we're getting now, where it's not an audit or a desk audit. It's now, all right, here's an assessment for $321, right? And it's like, well, that's going to take somebody half an hour at least to respond to. So how does that now make the case for Audit Shield?
True enough. Well,
I guess I just did.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much. We're done here. No, but I think you're hitting on something very important, and that is that the shift within the CRA in terms of the review audits and inquiries is becoming more of a structural shift. Now, let me unpack that a bit. So, as we know, the CRA has long used the risk profiling, but because of increased automation, this allows for those systems to operate at a much greater scale, right? Which is resulting in more frequency and certainly the risk triggered
It's the
reviews.
technology. That's the technology that's being deployed now.
And what we say there is that it's very important to have a workflow in place for firms to anticipate this additional workload. Coming back to Audit Shield, the firms that we work with, they know that they're going to be reviewed. They have an expectation of it. And so they just simply use Audit Shield to make sure that time is fully recoverable.
Making their least valuable time the most valuable time.
Yeah. And then we pay you within 2 to 3 days. You can't go wrong.
So Jason, what are you guys seeing?
So just in the last 60 days, some of the trends that we're seeing across the country at Audit Shield, just a couple of points. Volume's definitely up over the last 60 days, about 20% as compared to this time year over year. As I mentioned earlier, the severity, not so much, but the frequency of these audits, and again, the concurrence or the simultaneous nature of the fact and how you're having to respond is pretty common now too. What we're seeing as far as the leaders are your processing and matching review programs over the last couple of months. Though corporate, your CPAR's vehicle still persists, professional, advertising, promotional fees. But GST, HST hasn't gone away either on the pre and post reviews. And then, just as far as this structural shift thing, it's about whether the numbers fit within that digital benchmark we're talking about. So I think this is the reason why we're seeing that 20% increase. With regard to the industries of focus, looking at our data, where firms are spending most of their time responding to CRA reviews just in the last couple of months is concentrated in construction, gig work, transportation, hospitality, and e-commerce. So these are your top 4.
Do you have anything on personal? Is there any developments on personal or not?
Just that they're, again, that the process review and matching programs still are the number 1 area of focus when we look overall, just within the last couple of months.
I mentioned that only because last year was such a mess in terms of slips being filed late and so on. And I've got a couple of clients now where we're still dealing with matching issues, having written back to them saying sorry, but that you got that wrong, and it just takes time. And not only that, but the damage it does to clients when they feel that they're being billed for a mistake that they say, well, you should have known about that, right? As an example, and it has nothing to do with us.
Nothing to do. That's the biggest misconception. And it has nothing to do with the integrity of the work that you've always provided your client. It's the fact that they're caught in this net of targeting.
Of a system.
Exactly. Right. And so that's why more firms are using Audit Shield. So they don't have to go back to their clients. They simply submit the time to us and we reimburse them.
Timely perspective, Jason. Thanks for coming in today and sharing the latest.
You bet.
Great. Thanks, everyone.